Borderlands. Feels like I'm going to lose my band. Yeah, okay, I'm talking about Borderlands for about 10 minutes here. Last night I saw it because when I saw the trailers for Borderlands, I actually thought it looked like a really fun movie that I wanted to see. And so I took my son and we saw it. And I've been hearing so much about this film, none of it good. This is odd to see a film start out with a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes. Now, Rotten Tomatoes, I have to admit, isn't really a score that is very consistent. Like, you will go, if a movie gets released, you'll often see those numbers look very high, but as the movie starts to get more circulation, those numbers go down in quality by quite a bit. And in some cases, the audience score might leap up. And I actually saw quite a basic. I think there's a real disconnect as far as the audience score is with the critical review, which was unfortunately at 0. Yeah. Here's the deal. Borderlands isn't a bad film. It isn't a great film, though. And I think part of it is because I'm not really certain, so I'm going to just go with a few theories of mine. Number one, the characters aren't really in-depth good. Now, some of them are, okay, but the main characters are not. Cate Blanchett plays this kind of hardened bounty hunter sort of role, and this is a role we've seen in many science fiction films, and Borderlands is, of course, science fiction. And so she's kind of there just being this hard, gruff sort of person. Playing against type, which I'd have to say, I'm trying to think of any other film I've seen where Cate Blanchett is playing a hardened type of person, but honestly, she is a very diverse actress. I mean, she plays the Elf Queen in Lord of the Rings, and I think she played Hela, and she was in Tar. I remember that film. I saw that film. Not sure I really like that film, though. Anyway, and then, so yeah, and I get the feeling like there's a character that she meets whose name is Tina, and Tina's kind of a clone, and is actually a very good character. I actually kind of like this character. Tina's got this rabbit ears all the time. Actually, shoot, Tina, isn't there a character on Bob's Burgers that wears rabbit ears? I never even thought about that until now. And Tina is apparently a clone because, oh gosh, I haven't even discussed the plot of this movie. Anyway, Tina's a good character, and Tina also has this bodyguard person named Krieg, who's kind of a psycho. I think that's what they actually call him in this universe. And it has a mask, but you can tell there's a heart of gold, and has a real kind of caring figure for Tina. And then Kevin Hart's character, I forget his name, but he kind of plays sort of this like also a gruff kind of like, I've seen the bad side of the universe type of thing, almost like Han Solo or sort of like that. The problem is, he's Kevin Hart. Do you remember that time when like Kevin Hart was like in everything? And I remember those days because I thought, like, you know what I need in my life? More Kevin Hart. Because that's what I'm getting. Kevin Hart, Kevin Hart, Kevin Hart. And yeah, it gets, I mean, the guy's like all over the place. I mean, he's probably got a good agent. I don't really think he fits in for this role, but I get the feeling like whoever wanted to do this film, of course based on a video game, and I've not discussed that at all, probably maybe played the video game, and I've been told the game has a very kind of comedic spirit. Given that the game takes place in some weird kind of post-apocalyptic kind of setting, and I don't know how accurate the movie was to this thing, because the movie's plot is kind of interesting, because it starts out in this kind of universe where there's been some sort of alien race called the Iridiums or something like that. I didn't write it down. Apparently the Iridiums, they kind of left behind all this technology, and mankind was able to use that technology to have some interesting thing. I'm assuming that this is how humanity has been able to use space travel, because space travel exists. And there's even a world called Pandora, which, honestly, could you have not called it something else? Avatar kind of took that name. Every time they talked about that, I was going like, Why are you even talking about that? Like, isn't that from Avatar? It's like, couldn't you not? Did you actually steal from Avatar? I mean, you're crazy. Um, so, and on this world of Pandora, it's not really well explained. As far as like, there are characters here that do voiceovers to explain this thing, and voiceover is always kind of a lazy way of exposition, unless you can do it really creatively. So the main character, shoot, I forget her name. Kate Blanchett's character, the bounty hunter chick. She basically explains that there's this vault somewhere in Borderlands that has all of the iridium technology, and that if you find this vault, essentially it's a big treasure trove. I mean, whoever finds this is like, I mean, because there's this big mega corporation that known as Atlas, which like owns a lot of things, and yeah, and Atlas is looking for this vault so it can be, I don't know, richer. Feels like Atlas is already rich enough as he is, and yeah, you see this guy Atlas. He's kind of the main villain of this thing. I'm pretty sure I recognize him from something, but honestly, I didn't really IMDb this movie. So yeah, there's a bunch of things going on in this movie that I actually think, like, with a few more drafts of the script, you would have had a great movie. I think the reason why people don't like Borderlands is it feels too familiar. The characters feel too gruff, kind of wasteland bounty hunter thing that we've seen before a million times. It's interesting that they could have done this with, they sort of do this with Kate Blanchett and the Tina character, is that they sort of have this kind of relationship going, because if you've seen shows like, say, The Last of Us or Mandalorian, there's always like this gruff guy, but he meets a child and then he suddenly realizes that he has a heart and that he's really a nice guy, and he's kind of helping out and he starts to become a good guy on his own. Didn't really see kind of that. There's elements of that there, but not really well fleshed out. So also, speaking of things that weren't fleshed out, there was a lot of exposition at this thing, but there are like groups on this planet known as the Lancers, and they wear these red outfits and they kind of dress like stormtroopers from Star Wars. And I guess they're like the law on this planet or something like that. And there's even like a commander there who's an interesting character that I really felt should have been developed more, because by the end of the movie, without revealing any spoilers, this character makes some choices that I kind of thought felt either out of character or in character. But considering the character wasn't really developed all that well, I really couldn't tell if the movie was doing right or wrong. So, and then there's people called the Psychos, which I discussed before with the character Krieg. And the Psychos wear these masks that are Borderlands by design. There's this very specific design to them. And they're just out there doing their psycho stuff, but I really couldn't figure out, like, okay, you've introduced a group of people called the Psychos. Who are they? What are their motivations? What are they trying to do? And the only explanation they give is like, Pandora will do that to a person. And it's like, well, it's not doing that to every person, because the law enforcement seems okay, I guess. So, and then there's a scene where they visit this underground place, and there's full of psychos. And I'm going like, why is there psychos here? And why is there worse psychos now? Can you explain this to me? Anyway, there's one more element I haven't talked about, which is Jack Black is in this movie, or at least doing a voiceover in this movie. And he's Claptrap, this robot here, that, in all honesty, when he's revealed, is he gets a little Jar Jar Binks-y. There are times where he's like, he says something funny, and it is funny. It's legitimately funny. But most of the time, he's there being an annoyance. But the thing is, the film seems to know that this thing is annoying. So this thing gets shot multiple times, and, and it just feels like, okay, they know this thing is annoying. And I think that there's something clever going on here. Another shout out to Jamie Lee Curtis, who's in this film, who plays a really intriguing kind of character that feels very emotionally detached, playing against type for Jamie Lee Curtis, but she seems to be doing very well in this film. So on the whole, you should see Borderlands probably when it's streaming, because, I mean, it's a fun thing. And if you got a big TV, you'll really enjoy it. There's a lot of good effects in it, and yeah, you might like that. Anyway, this is Mark Rollins from TGC finishing my 10-minute rant about Borderlands the movie.